Hi, I'm Phan. I am the Senior Manager of Blizzard eSports, and I'm joined by a very special couple to Blizzard Entertainment and the StarCraft II team, John and Genna Bain. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
So we are at the conclusion of BlizzCon, where the WCS Global Finals just took place, and the eve of the launch of Legacy of the Void. It's been a rare opportunity to have both of you here on the West Coast. So I want to take advantage of this time and have you guys sit with us so we can talk about your history with StarCraft. And I want to start with Genna. Genna, for those who are familiar with you in StarCraft, they know that you have a rich history in StarCraft II, and it started with being the team owner of Axiom eSports. Can you tell us how that started?
Sure. Initially, we had taken Crank, Protoss player from South Korea, out to MLG Raleigh. And together, he and I sort of went back and forth about finding more opportunities for him, because at the time he didn't have an esports team to support him. And, we just kind of came together and decided that we really wanted to make kind of like a family type of team where everyone kind of depended on each other, everyone helped everyone. And
how did you identify that Crank was the player that you guys wanted to sponsor?
We actually found out about him on StarCraft Reddit. And someone I can't actually remember his name. I love this guy to death who actually let us know that Crank needed support. Said, hey, there's this great guy. He is amazing. He streams all the time. We watch all of his streams. And, wouldn't it be great just to bring him out to a live StarCraft event in North America for people to be able to see what he can do. And perhaps he might get picked up by a team that was already in existence. And
so from there, Axiom eSports was born?
That was it.
I know the community, you guys are such a huge part of the community, but to make the decision for a financial investment in an esports team, what were your reasons behind that?
Passion mostly.
That's so great.
We both really enjoyed watching Brood War back in the day, and even now StarCraft II, and it's just always been a passion project for us.
So this question is going to go both of you. What were some of the unseen challenges? I imagine there are many owning a team. What were some of the things that you learned, challenges that you had to face that overcome?
There's a great deal of challenges in running an esports team, many of them being financial, as you might imagine. I don't think the sheer cost of it really it wasn't something that we really understood until we really got involved in it and started to go through. You can plan for this sort of thing, but you can never really plan for all of the eventualities and all sorts of hidden costs and things like that. And organizing, just being able to get players out of South Korea halfway across the world and make sure they do so safely, know where they're going, get to where they need to go, and they're properly accommodated and in the sort of right environment where they can play is actually extremely challenging. It's a big logistical challenge. The other concern really is navigating an ever-changing scene, something that is going to be altered on a year-by-year basis, depending on the regulations and the rules. And of course, when WCS started, we needed to figure out exactly where our players were going to play and under what conditions. And over the years, of course, that changed. We were able to play in WCS for a while, and then they had to go back to Korea to play in GSL, which is quite a bit more challenging and was very difficult for them to do. But we wanted to make sure they still got to visit as many other countries as possible and get to play in front of their fans in different places. So that's expensive and certainly very time-consuming to sort out.
So you bring up a good point. You both have a very unique position where you got to peer behind the curtain of what StarCraft looked like for two different scenes, both in Korea as well as the foreign scene. What has that dynamic been like for you guys to see both sides?
I think that it was really interesting, first of all, just to be able to go to South Korea and be able to, view everything that was going on. Being able to attend Pro League in person was, a pretty awesome experience for me. It's so competitive over there.
Are there any unique learnings that you've had that you would what perspective you would like to share for the rest of the StarCraft global scene who haven't seen both sides like you guys have?
I mean, I guess maybe some of the community support. It seems like everyone that participates in Pro League has an entire fan group of their very own. Instead of just being, a fan base of for a specific team, for every individual person on that team, it seems like they have their own supporters, and I just think that's so great. I mean, I would like to think we have that here as well, and especially over in Europe, where I think they're a bit more player centric instead of team centric. Really, like here it's like, oh yeah, Team America, go EG. But over in Korea, it's every single individual person. It's really great to see that kind of community support.
So when Axiom eSports took GSTL in 2013, what was that like for you guys?
That was amazing. You really want to talk about this?
Well, I mean, I was awake for 3 days straight during that. I was actually at an event, Red Bull Battlegrounds in New York at the time, when we were going through to the finals. And the first day, we lost pretty badly in the first series. And considering our dominance up to that point, it was it was kind of surprising, and it was also a very crushing thing to see, because we'd done GSTL before. We had done incredibly well during the actual rounds and through the season itself, but when we come to the playoffs, we'd fallen in season 1 as well. So it was almost like it was seeing that replayed in my mind, and combined with 2 days of lack of sleep and staying up to watch this at 5 a.m., I said to myself I wouldn't do it, and I couldn't keep that promise. I couldn't sleep anyway, and I thought to myself, look, we'll just watch it. And the absolute final game, going to the Super Race match, was as nail-biting as it got. For a good 5 minutes, I thought we just lost it right then and there. It just looked unbelievably grim, and eventually Innovation managed to turn it around, and that was obviously an amazing moment. The only thing I regret is not being able to really be there with them in order to experience that.
There are so many great things that you guys have done, Genna, and I know you're such a positive force for the team. I still remember the story where you helped surprise Crank and had Olivia show up at the airport, and they have so many great things to say, and I just want to say thank you so much for setting such a great example for the rest of the community on how you treat your players, just a perspective that you provide, and how much insight that you give to us to help people understand really what it's like behind the scenes. But I want to move on to you, John, because you started ShopCraft America. And that was a tournament for StarCraft that was for North America only. I'm curious, with a team that you're sponsoring with Korean players, what led you to want to take on that initiative and program?
Well, that was Jennifer's idea.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah. And I'm going to call her Jennifer just to annoy her even more. I know she hates it.
I don't think I've ever heard her called Jennifer.
Indeed, and that's deliberate, But if there's anywhere I can embarrass her, it'll be right here. But that was definitely Jen's idea. And while we were supporting a Korean team, it's important to realize that the infrastructure in the rest of the world indirectly supports that entire ecosystem. And as much as it may end up being the case sometime down the road that the only StarCraft that exists is in Korea, I don't think we really want to go back to the situation with Brood War, where it was an incredible scene in Korea, but outside of it, it was an amateur scene, essentially. It was a small group of very hardcore fans, and I have no doubt that people maybe lust after that nostalgically, but without good support in the rest of the world, and especially in the region that was suffering the most at the time, which was America, then you're going to have fans starting to become disinterested. They want local heroes to cheer for. And it was Jen's idea to set up something that was tied into the ladder and to try and figure out, who is the best person in America? And more to the point, can we encourage and raise the level of competition? Because I think one of the biggest problems that America has, and Europe to some degree as well, is that the Korean infrastructure, the team houses, and the way that the A-teamers and B-teamers and the coaches are set up doesn't exist outside of Korea. So their major practice source is ladder. And if the ladder isn't competitive, then they have no chance of getting better. And I think it was probably pretty much every player that was involved in it, or even around it, said that month where they were doing the ladder qualification was the most competitive month that has ever existed on the North American ladder. And it was
amazing. Genna, how did you come up with that idea? Well, was there something that you were watching? Was there an event? What was it that just this light bulb just clicked on and turned on? You're like, I want to run a North America tournament.
It was actually the release of WCS that season.
Great.
Mostly just because a lot of people, unfortunately, had some I won't say negative, but just different feelings about what they believe WCS should have been for that season. And I just really wanted to highlight the American region and be able to say, okay, here are this, was it 10? Wasn't that we started out with the top 10?
We went to 16.
16, yes, yeah. You're right. The top 16 on the American ladder that are native to either North or South America. Just to be able to showcase them, because there's so much talent that never really gets a chance to go to BlizzCon, for example, or to some of the more high-profile events of the time, and be able, because they didn't have a team to be able to support them and be able to, oh, here you go, here's a plane ticket, here's a hotel room, be able to showcase your talent that way. And I just really wanted to give them that chance. Here is your stage. Show that you have this massive skill on the ladder, and be able to pit these people up against each other to really find out who was the best in America at that time. And it was amazing.
So many people thank you for that. So that was great. I hope you guys continue to do more, which then leads me to Legacy of the Void. Are there any plans that you have for Legacy of the Void, or any ideas you have brewing?
I mean, personally, I'd like to bring back ShopCraft America, but this one over here is so busy that I'm not sure if I can convince him to cast it.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, especially looking at the way that WCS has worked out over the past few years, we did manage to get a foreign champion in WCS Season 3 of 2015, which was great. And I think you've got to look at exactly what happened there and what environment produced that champion. And the environment right now seems to be that in France in particular, they're actually building a homegrown infrastructure, and they have homegrown events and support. And as a result, those players are getting better, because Lilbo is not the only good French player. In fact, there's quite a few. And for the longest time, I think it was probably around 2010, 2011, in Europe, it was Germany and Sweden that were the powerhouses. And that was because they had the homegrown tournaments to support. You had EPS, you had your DreamHacks, and you had your strong players coming from there. So I think if you look at that and you look at that degree of success, then you've got to think to yourself, well, how can you replicate that level of success in America? And how can you provide a competitive and strong ladder practice environment that people would want to get involved in? And also even encourage some of the Korean pros to actually play on that ladder and enrich it, as opposed to just playing on the Korean ladder or on the European ladder. How can you strengthen that and make these guys care about that ladder again? And it would be great to do that event again on a more regular basis. I don't know if it would be me that did it, probably not. But I think the point is it doesn't matter who does it, the idea is solid. We've heard it time and time and time again from the pros. It works, it's a solid idea, it keeps them interested in the ladder, it keeps outside fans interested in the ladder, it's boosted stream numbers, it's increased levels of competition, and it's raised the bar. So I would love to see more of that. If we could, then that would be great.
Well, John and Genna, thank you so much for all of the support that you have given to Blizzard and to StarCraft. We really appreciate the perspective that you have provided, not only to us and to the community, for being the team owner of Axiom, for being amazing content creators, and all these amazing ideas that you have. I hope to see them keep coming. I appreciate you spending your time here with us today.
Of course, our pleasure.
Genna, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, that does it for us here at BlizzCon. On behalf of Blizzard Entertainment, thank you so much for all your support. Thank you for everyone else for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.